Okay guys, we're doing a quick electronics check before we get to covering. Everything's kind of wired but not not fixed in place yet or anything. I just want to make sure that everything is working here. So I've bound it to my Spectrum, and I'm going to be using the this Spectrum receiver here. It's a antennaless one, and it's got good reviews. We'll see how it works out. So motor, which good, and the wire just fell off, that's okay. And then each of our ailerons is working. That's cool. And then we got rudder and elevator. There's our elevator. And there's our rudder. So good job on everything. Okay, so we know that all the wires work and everything's working. So the next step will be to seat everything in there. Still waiting for my batteries to arrive, and I have some batteries that will fit nicely into the battery compartment from underneath. These right here are just too big, but the ones I have coming will fit nicely in there. It'll be 4S 2200 milliamps, so should be nice. Alright, so looks like we're ready to cover, gang. So we have begun the covering process, and you can see I've got my servo wire in position, taped in so it doesn't get lost. So we've got the bottom covered, and then we'll begin the process of getting the top covered here in a moment. You can see I've already done this one wing, looking pretty sweet. So everything is in these final stages where the little nitty-gritty details take a fair amount of time. I'm still going to put machine guns on here. I printed a couple of Vickers, getting the scale. It's about a 1/9 scale, but not exactly 1/9. It's like a 1.8 something something. But I made these at 1/9 scale, so those will get mounted right here. Still working on exactly how I'm going to mount it. The kit supplied these right here. Not bad if you're just going to go some fun scale stuff. Even with these, it's still a fun scale because I'm not sure they actually had Vickers on the sides. I think they were parabolics. I know there's a parabolic that goes back here, but this is close enough. That'll look kind of cool. And I'll paint these. Printed ABS. You can get the files on Thingiverse for free, and then just kind of scale it to what you need. I think I printed this file at 35%, which gives me roughly a 1/9 scale. Okay, looking pretty good. We are using monocoat, which I'm not used to using monocoat. I usually use a cloth material or a Solartex, which isn't made anymore, or now I'm using the Oratex, which is really dynamite. It's much more forgiving in terms of finishing. I've got a little divot right there that I'm not wild about, but so be it. That's okay. Oh, we're getting there. So as you can see, I've got the two wings covered, both top and bottom. My servos are in place. Floats are all set. I just need a couple, get them glued in there, the sets or the inserts we talked about before. And I'm waiting for some specific batteries to come in. And while I'm waiting for that, I just can't help myself. And I've decided I want to put a radiator on the front here. I just don't want this to be covered with kind of a blunt end. So I've taken some brass. We're creating a radiator on the front. What I'll end up doing is putting some screen in here. That's the next step. But basically I took brass and bent it out, put a crossbar across and soldered it there on both ends. So this will end up getting either screwed in on the sides or glued. I'm not sure which yet. It kind of depends. But that'll be kind of dressing up the front of this to give us a radiator. Okay guys, I've been away for a bit because I've been working on getting things done on this plane that aren't unique to this plane. So they're just general building things, like covering the wings, covering the control surfaces that aren't specific to this plane, that they go to any plane. So you can YouTube any of those covering YouTube videos and stuff like that to learn how to do that if you're not sure. So on this plane, what I've done is I've got it pretty much built, and I've got the wings covered, all the control surfaces covered, I've got my floats completed, I've got all my struts all built and ready, and I haven't completely covered my fuselage yet because I've been waiting for a battery. And the compartment in this plane is very small, but it wants a 4S battery, and to find a battery small enough has been a real challenge for me. So I contacted my friends at rcbatteriesusa.com, and their A-Power batteries are about the smallest 4S that I could find on the market. And they're really great because they're just like anybody during this COVID time, have some shipping issues with overseas. And so they haven't been able to get the 4S or the cell batteries that are this size for the 2200 milliamps. So Jason over at the company actually took the battery from his plane and sent it to me so that I can mock this up. So that's why I really love these guys at A-Power Batteries, rcbatteriesusa.com, because they're regular people, they're flyers, they're builders, and they know the needs that we have as RC pilots, and so they go out of their way to make sure they help you out. So Jason took his battery, his own personal battery, and sent it to me so that I can make sure I'm going to be able to fit this battery into this aircraft. And it's a good thing that he did, because I was going to order a bunch of these, and even this small battery does not fit in this compartment. You just cannot get it in there. Maybe I could get it in there. I'll show you some close-ups here in a minute if I did some cutting away of formers, but there's not much former there to cut away, and I'm afraid I'm going to impact the integrity of the build if I start chopping things away. So I'll show you a close-up of what I'm talking about here. So this is the underside of the plane, where the battery compartment is built into the aircraft. So we lift out the hatch, which is battery or magnet and tab set, and you can see that this battery is not going to fit in there. You see that wing tube there? There's no moving that. Now, can we cut this former away? Maybe, but then you've impacted the integrity of this whole section here. And also the hatch has the tab that goes right in there. So your hatch tab goes right in there. So if we wanted to make this fit, we'd have to get rid of this former here altogether, or cut it back considerably, and there's not much there to cut back. As you can see, it's pretty narrow already. So now maybe my friends at Dancing Wings have a solution to this, but right now I have a solution to it, and my solution is to reverse things, and that is I'm going to put my ESC and receiver down in here. And now, because I've created this hatch right here, by getting rid of that plastic, I've created this hatch right here, and my battery now will quite comfortably fit in here. So my battery will be easy to access instead of having to flip the plane over and struggle to get it in underneath, I'll be able to simply lift that hatch. My ESC wire will come out of here. So imagine the ESC wire coming out. And I'll just be able to put it in like that. So now my battery is actually going to be easier to access than the original design. Okay? So that's where my battery is going to go. And now I even have enough room here to go bigger on my battery. So now I'm not locked into that 2200 milliamp, and I'll be able to get some longer flight times. So Jason really saved me by getting this battery to me so that I could test this and know that I'm now going to have to move my battery up top, and I'll be able to go a larger battery as well and get some longer flight times. So these batteries again, A Power Batteries from rcbatteriesusa.com. If you're a US builder, even if you're not in the USA, I would suggest you use these guys. And if you are in the USA, I would definitely recommend you use these guys for your batteries because they're a USA company. Support a USA guy, alright guys? Now if you're not in the US, you can go wherever you want, that's fine. But their prices are great, and even better than their prices is their quality, and also the guys stand behind their work, and they're just dynamite people. They just really help you out a lot. So that's who I would strongly recommend you get your batteries from. Okay guys, I've got it all assembled, and the only thing I have to do yet is still fix the floats to the struts and everything. But that shouldn't take, but I want to do that very last thing. Still kind of deciding on what I'm gluing where, so I think I've got it figured out, but that'll be the last thing we do. But the ailerons are working, elevator working, rudder working, motor working. Oops, that fell off my radiator. I haven't fixed that on there yet. That'll go on there. I still have to paint the front to make it black, and then put some silver stripes on it to make it look more like a radiator. But all my surfaces are working. I don't have my throws set or anything yet, but I'll do that in final setup. But everything looking good, guys. The biggest change that we made in the kit design was opting out of the vacuum form molded top deck here. Okay, if you recall in some of our early videos, we got rid of the one that came with the kit and built our own version right here. So we've got this whole top deck, and we also got rid of the machine guns that came with the kit, because I didn't really want to go with them. And we 3D printed our own machine guns fore and aft. And we've got the cowl wrapped with leather. Got our windshield in place. And changing things up to this format, I no longer have to go underneath and flip the plane over and go underneath to insert a battery. My battery now fits right in here, and again we're going with the A Power 2600 milliamp 4S battery from usabattery.com. They're a fantastic company to work with. Definitely, if you're a USA customer, Definitely go with these guys. They're top-notch people, and their batteries are perfect. And this was the battery we found that was going to fit nicely in our compartment right here. So that fits perfectly right there. And we have our ESC and radio underneath the tray now. The plans had originally called for us to go battery underneath, ESC and radio on top here. But then you have to flip the plane over, fight all of the struts, and we couldn't find a battery that really was going to fit in there. So this battery right here works perfectly for this. Okay, we strap it in with the Velcro straps once it's plugged into your ESC right here. Okay, now the center of gravity was set to be between 80 and 85 millimeters. And I wanted to set it a little bit closer to 80, so I have it balanced at 82 millimeters. And with that battery in place and everything as it is, all I had to do to get perfect balance was add a little bit of lead to my top deck right here. I'm doing this one-handed, so it's a little bit funky. So now my top deck has my weight in right there. And the magnets I have in here allow me to literally support the weight of the plane lifting up here. So my magnets are nice and tight, and that top deck's not coming off unless we have disaster. So with that little bit of weight in there, it's balanced perfectly at 81 or 82 millimeters. I can't remember exactly, but it was not 80. I didn't want to quite go 80, and I definitely didn't want to go 85 millimeters because I wanted to make sure we're as stable as possible, at least for our maiden. Okay. I also put in our own little radiator right there. We built this cowl, if you recall, out of 1/32 ply, and then fiberglassed it, and then I painted it with metallic gold to go with our brass radiator that we made. Okay, so it's brass with some screen in the front. Okay, and the 12/6 prop that comes with the kit is plastic. I wanted to go with this wooden prop because it gets a little bit more realism to the aircraft. Okay. And then the last modification we made, we wanted to make sure that all of our struts we could take off for transport. So instead of these pieces gluing, these struts gluing in, we put a tab there, an aluminum tab that is actually glued in, and then these pieces are screwed to that tab so the floats can come off of the aircraft. Now that raised up our center strut, so we just got our tube here. If I can get that in focus for you. So you can see we got that separating tube that kind of pulls it all together. I'm gonna cut off that extension right here of the screw. I'm gonna cut that off so that we don't catch some seaweed or anything. All right, so that's pretty much it on the build.